The next, the world was saying goodbye. In recent months, Hollywood has lost some of its most beloved actors, leaving fans stunned and searching for answers. But while the headlines told one story, the truth behind their final days reveals details many people never heard. Some left behind unfinished dreams. Others delivered final messages that now seem haunting in hindsight. And one actor's last chapter is still sparking conversations today. But here's what makes this story even more remarkable. Just when fans thought they knew everything about this actor's life, a surprising detail emerged after their passing, and what it revealed changed the way many people remembered them forever. Drop where you're watching from below and stick around with us. There's a lot more coming that you won't want to miss. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Let's continue. Millions of people grew up watching this actor on their television screens. Week after week, year after year, he became a familiar presence in homes around the world. His performances felt effortless, but behind that success was a journey filled with challenges, setbacks, and moments that could have ended his career long before it truly began. Long before fame arrived, he was simply a young man chasing a dream in one of the most competitive industries imaginable. Rejections came often, opportunities were rare, yet he kept moving forward, believing that one role could change everything. Eventually, that role arrived. Almost overnight, audiences began to recognize his face. Producers wanted to work with him. Fans followed his career from project to project. What many people didn't realize, however, was how close he had come to missing the opportunity that would make him a household name. Years later, he would look back on that moment as one of the most important turning points of his life. But success came with pressures that viewers never saw. While audiences enjoyed the characters he brought to life, he was dealing with personal struggles away from the spotlight. Like many performers, he faced periods of uncertainty, difficult decisions, and challenges that tested his resilience. Yet through it all, he continued doing what he loved most, entertaining millions. As time passed, fans noticed fewer public appearances. Interviews became less frequent. The actor who had once seemed everywhere was slowly stepping away from the spotlight. At first, few people thought much of it, but behind the scenes, circumstances were changing. Those closest to him understood that his life had entered a different chapter. Despite the challenges he faced, friends and colleagues often spoke about his determination, professionalism, and gratitude toward the fans who had supported him throughout his career. Then came the news that no one wanted to hear. Tributes quickly began pouring in from fellow actors, directors, longtime friends, and devastated fans. Social media filled with memories, favorite scenes, and heartfelt messages from people whose lives had been touched by his work. For many, it felt like losing a piece of their own past. But perhaps the most remarkable part of his story isn't how it ended. It's the legacy he left behind. The characters he created continue to entertain new generations. His work remains available to audiences who may not even have been born when he first became famous. And every time someone discovers one of his performances for the first time, a part of that legacy continues. Yet as emotional as this loss was, the next actor's story contains a twist that few people saw coming. And what happened during his final chapter would leave Hollywood completely stunned. The next actor built a career that many performers only dream about. From the outside, it seemed as though everything had fallen perfectly into place. Hit films, award nominations, the admiration of both fans and fellow actors. But behind every successful career lies a story that audiences rarely see. Before fame arrived, he spent years fighting for opportunities. Casting directors overlooked him, studios doubted him, yet he refused to quit. Then came the role that changed everything. Suddenly, his name was everywhere. Fans quoted his lines. Critics praised his performances. What seemed like an overnight success was actually the result of years of persistence. But success often comes with a hidden price. As the years passed, health challenges began to affect the energetic performer audiences had come to know. Even so, he remained deeply committed to his craft. His final public appearances carried a new meaning after his passing. Fans would later revisit those moments, realizing realizing they had been witnessing the closing chapter of a remarkable life. And when news of his death broke, the response was immediate. Tributes poured in from around the world. Yet what stood out most wasn't the awards he won, it was the lives he touched. But Hollywood wasn't done saying goodbye. Another heartbreaking loss was just around the corner. By the time this actor stepped onto a movie set, audiences already knew they were about to witness something special. There was a natural presence about him that couldn't be taught. Whether on television or the big screen, he had a way of making every performance feel real. His rise to fame wasn't instant. In fact, there were moments when his future in acting seemed uncertain. Roles disappeared, projects failed, doors closed. But then came an opportunity that transformed everything. The performance not only changed his career, it secured his place in entertainment history. But even during his most successful years, he remained surprisingly private. Friends often described him as humble, thoughtful, and dedicated to his family. That's why the news of his passing felt especially personal to so many fans. Many people weren't just mourning an actor, they were mourning someone who had been part of their lives for decades. And just when audiences thought they had seen the most emotional story on this list, another shocking loss reminded everyone how fragile life can be. So far, we've looked back at several unforgettable careers, but the next stories include one actor whose legacy continues to influence Hollywood today, and another whose final chapter stunned fans around the world. The next actor spent decades entertaining audiences. What made him unique wasn't just his talent, it was his ability to connect with people across generations. Young viewers discovered him through modern projects. Older audiences remembered the roles that first made him famous. Few performers managed to bridge generations like that. Behind the scenes, he was also known for helping younger actors find their footing in the industry. Many have since spoken about the advice, encouragement, and kindness he offered away from the cameras. When his passing was announced, those stories began surfacing everywhere. It revealed a side of him that many fans had never seen. His greatest legacy wasn't only the characters he played, it was the people he inspired. And as moving as that story is, the next actor's final days would become one of Hollywood's most talked about chapters. Sometimes the brightest stars leave us when we least expect it, and that's exactly why this loss was so difficult for fans to accept. For years, he appeared unstoppable. His performances continued earning praise. New projects remained on the horizon. Future plans were already taking shape. Nothing suggested that his story would end so soon. That's why the news spread so quickly. Fans searched for answers. Friends shared memories. Colleagues expressed disbelief. As people looked back on his final interviews and public appearances, many noticed details they had previously overlooked. Moments that once seemed ordinary suddenly carried new significance. Yet, perhaps the most inspiring part of his story was the determination he showed throughout his life. Every setback became motivation. Every challenge became another reason to push forward. That resilience remains one of the greatest lessons he left behind. But another heartbreaking loss was still to come, and for many fans, it would prove even more emotional. Fans believed this actor still had many years ahead of him. That belief made the news especially difficult to process. For decades, he had been a familiar face in film and television. His performances entertained millions, but what many people admired most was his ability to reinvent himself throughout his career. Whenever audiences thought they knew exactly what he could do, he surprised them. That willingness to evolve kept his career alive through changing times. Yet behind the success was a person facing challenges most fans never saw. Despite those struggles, he continued creating, performing, and inspiring others. Even in his later years, he remained passionate about the work he loved. When news of his passing began appearing after his passing, one theme appeared again and again: gratitude. People weren't only thankful for the performances, they were thankful for the memories, for the laughter, for the inspiration, and for the reminder that great storytelling can connect people across generations. Yet one final story remains, and it's the loss that affected countless fans around the world. Of all the losses on today's list, none affected fans quite like this one. Long before becoming a household name, this actor was simply a dreamer chasing an impossible goal. The journey wasn't easy. There were failures, there were doubts, there were moments when success seemed out of reach, but he kept going. Eventually, that determination led to performances that would define an era. His characters became cultural landmarks. His work influenced actors, filmmakers, and audiences alike. Yet behind the fame was a person who never stopped growing. Even after achieving extraordinary success, he continued searching for new challenges. That passion remained with him throughout his life. When news of his passing reached the public, the reaction was unlike anything Hollywood had seen in years. Fans gathered online to share favorite scenes. Friends told stories the public had never heard before. Colleagues spoke about his generosity, professionalism, and lasting influence. And suddenly it became clear that his impact extended far beyond the screen. The world may have lost an extraordinary actor, but his story didn't end there. Every film, every scene, every unforgettable performance keeps that legacy alive. The entertainment world has lost many remarkable talents, but their impact cannot be measured by awards alone. Their stories remind us that while fame may fade, great performances have a way of living forever. And perhaps that's the most remarkable thing about these actors. Although they've left the stage, their stories continue every time someone presses play. But even now, one question remains unanswered. Which of these legendary stars left behind the greatest legacy of all?